Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to the great classic, Song of the Open Road, passage number 1. Now our assumptions are that you've been studying with us at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, the Talks with Walt folder is what we're calling our playlist. And my hope is that you have your own copy of Leaves of Grass and you've been annotating it like crazy, and you've been with me right from the start, and you've read everything from inscriptions all the way up through Salute Amon, and even our introductory set of comments to get us ready for now the very first passage of Song of the Open Road. We're going to mess around with all 15 passages or sections of this poem, each giving an individual lecture. Now, the background here that's significant for your notes. First of all, Whitman was a great walker, as so many of his ilk and time were, including, of course, as we mentioned, Thoreau. He was a great lover of the outdoors, along with Thoreau. And so we're going to have all kinds of symbolism or metaphors happening as we get into this one. Now, there's two ways to read this poem. One, of course, is as an invitation. That is to say, the invitation is to, let's go for a walk. That is to say, reading can be a lot like walking or traveling. Of course, from Chapman's Homer, upon first looking into Chapman's Homer, Keats providing us with that idea, much have I traveled in the realms of gold and many goodly states and kingdoms seen. Wordsworth was obviously a great walker as well. And so we're going to have Whitman kind of fitting into that genre. But this poem is also read, and I think it will be read by you, I hope, as a challenge. We live in a time where we are increasingly more and more sedentary. We look at our devices and we sit, and this poem's going to say, maybe time to think about getting up. Now, just to remind, from very early lectures, we said that in 303, we called them the Big Five. What does any text that we're looking at, here of course the poems of Leaves of Grass, what does it say about epistemology, what you can know? That is to say, there's the absolutist position, I know I'm right and you're wrong. There is the relative position, there is no right and there is no wrong. Of course, the performative contradiction says, yeah, but every time you say there's no absolutes, that starts to sound like an absolute. What is it that epistemologically Whitman is trying to challenge us to be? That is to say, the fallibilist position. I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. Ontologically, our second of the Big Five, that is to say the question of who am I? Who are we? The question of being, right? And then our second and our third and fourth of the Big Five, the ideas of, well, okay, so psychologically, study of the individual mind, and sociologically, the study of the group. What's going on there? Finally, the question of theodicy. Why do bad things have to happen? And here, right away, we're going to be challenged with Whitman's theodicy as well. Let's go to the passage now. We'll read it, and then we'll exegete it. He opens, afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road. Healthy, free, the world before me. The long brown path before me leading, wherever I choose. Henceforth I ask not good fortune, I myself am good fortune. Henceforth I whimper no more. Postpone no more. Need nothing. Done with the indoor complaints, libraries, querulous criticisms. Strong and content I travel the open road. The earth, that is sufficient. I do not want the constellations any nearer. I know they are very well where they are. I know they suffice for those who belong to them. Still, here I carry my old delicious burdens. I carry them, men and women. I carry them with me wherever I go. I swear it is impossible for me to get rid of them. I'm filled with them, and I will fill them in return. Now, the word afoot is already an echo. You'll remember it from Song of Myself, passage 33, I am afoot with my vision. The only other time that the phrase gets used other than right here. Notice, I'm going to walk afoot and I'm going to be light-hearted. If there's anything Whitman's Leaves of Grass is about, it's about that pursuit of happiness. Joy. He loved that line, of course. We have said it in our lecturing of Declaration of Independence that 2 times Scooby Snacks get mentioned in the most precious document of our nation. That is to say, happy, lighthearted. In other words, the whole feel of this poem, the whole feel of Leaves of Grass for the most part is an invitation to find some joy in your life. Why not find a little bit of joy? So he says it. I'm going to be lighthearted, and then notice, I'm going to take to the open road. Now notice right away, we are one line beyond a sonnet here. We got 15 lines, 15 sections. If you want to think about the symmetry, notice we begin with 3 lines and then we go 4, 4, 4 to set it up. It's kind of beautiful the way he sets up these stanzas. And then he'll say, I'm healthy. You'll go back to the passage 1 of Song of Myself when he talks about being a strong body. I'm healthy. The idea of freedom is central to our reading of Leaves of Grass, isn't it? The world, we think of Salut Amand right away, before me. In other words, the optimism is palpable as we begin our study of Song of the Open Road. And again, I hope that you've seen this optimism all the way from the very opening lines of inscriptions. The invitation, come and join me, right, as we pointed out in passage 46 of Song of Myself. And then he sees it. The long brown path, let's call it what it is. It's long. That is to say, if you're actually going to live your life as an adventure, it's going to be a long adventure. It's not going to be a short adventure. And the long brown path, before me leading wherever I choose. That is to say, freedom. It's all about agency, freedom. We're back to Milton in Paradise Lost and the idea that you have a choice to make. I have a choice to make. Of course, we together can make the same choice in our study of Leaves of Grass, right? He then will have 2 henceforths, that is to say from now on. I ask not good fortune. I myself am good fortune. Well, here it is. When bad things happen, Whitman will argue in his Odyssey, stop asking when bad things happen, why did this have to happen to me? As if somehow I'm a victim in a universe where all this stuff is happening to me. But rather learn to ask, why did it happen for me? I'm going to control my own destiny, he says. I'm not going to ask for good fortune. Interestingly, he's going to talk about the constellations here in a little bit, and the idea that somehow the stars determine the outcome of one's life. I'm not going to ask good fortune. I myself am good fortune. I'm going to make my own way. That's the way he says it. Notice there's a confidence here. Henceforth, he says, I whimper no more. Now point out that if he says I'm not going to whimper anymore, that's a statement that he has whimpered. In other words, he says, I'm not going to whine anymore. I'm not going to be engaged in complaining. He says, I'm going to whimper no more. I'm going to postpone no more. Need nothing. In other words, it's funny to think about why it is we keep putting off. We're back to Hamlet and his to be or not to be speech, are we? Why we keep putting off the things that we know we should be doing. And he says, I'm not going to postpone anymore. Now, let's point this out. The fact that he writes these lines tells us that up to this point, he has not yet taken the journey, but now he's at the moment, I'm going to do it. I'm ready to take the journey, I'm ready to take the Odyssey, and I'm not going to let anything hold me back. Now, in a line that was added in 1881, some have argued, because of his sustained illnesses, that by that point, Whitman was ready to start shutting down the project called Leaves of Grass. He introduced this line, done with indoor complaints, libraries, querulous criticisms. Now you can see this as going back to our comments on Song of Myself, passage 1, that he's kind of done with an academic or an intellectual only enterprise. He's not going to get involved in what he calls indoor complaints. In other words, I'm going outside. I'm done with libraries, although obviously he hoped that his book of poems would someday find itself onto a library shelf. But I think it's significant. He didn't just want his book of poems to be in a library. This querulous criticisms obviously has a whole lot to do with what people thought about his poetry. And even today, there are people who say this is just basically average rate poetry. My seniors in 303 have had a different view of this poem and all of Leaves of Grass. Now, there's something really profound here. And then he finishes it with strong and content. I mean, isn't it true that we're so often discontent? Why not be content with what we have and strong in that contentment so that we can, now it's not take to the open road, but rather travel the open road. And there it is. There's the Odyssey. The invitation, obviously, is to come along. Notice the repetition of I, all that anaphoria that we've talked about many times before. But as it's I, it's also we, right? What I assume, you shall assume, he says at the opening lines of Song of Myself. The earth, he says it. That's all I need. It's sufficient. I do not want the constellations any nearer. We'll come back to this with learned astronomer later. But the idea is, it's not that there's anything wrong with studying, but sooner or later, you got to take all of the things you studied and you actually have to put them into your life in some kind of action. And there's where this poem will take its roots. And I hope that it will begin to kind of take its roots in the psyche of each of us, to challenge us to say, I don't need to know any more about a whole bunch of stuff if I can't live my life with some kind of joy, right? Lightheartedness, can we say it that way? I don't want the constellations any nearer, he says. By the way, just reminding you that constellations reference of passage 46 of Song of Myself. I know they are very well where they are. I know they suffice for those who belong to them. In other words, he says, I'm not condemning academic studies of the constellations. I'm ready to get out there, though, and experience life on my own terms. That's what I want, he says. And then there's a parenthetic, making us think, of course, of of a contemporary, Emily Dickinson, who loved the use of the parenthetic every once in a while. Still, and I told you guys this, he loves this word still, because at the same moment, in English, the word still can carry with it the idea of, being in one place, I am being still, and duration, I'm still here, or I'm still on the road. So the way he loves to use this word, still here, I carry, and then what a precious phrase, my old delicious burdens. Now, earlier when we were studying together, passage 46 of Song of Myself, it was, pick up your backpack, rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and all of that. In other words, if you're going to travel, you got to have a backpack, right? So, for those of us that love the whole study of the bag you carry, defines so much of who you are, here it is, right? What's going to be your backpack? What are you going to carry in that backpack? He calls it his old delicious burdens. That is to say, his past. He's not going to run from his past. In other words, he doesn't want us to symbolically see that his leaving afoot and lighthearted, he somehow is going to leave everything of his past. No. I'm going to carry it with me. He says, I carry them. Men and women, I carry them with me wherever I go. Of course, it's Tennyson's Ulysses. I am part of all that I have met. All experience is an art where through gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. You'll remember to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bounds of human thought. That line is precious for Whitman from Tennyson's Ulysses. And then, to finish, I swear, as in I am sure, right, confident, it is impossible for me to get rid of them, the old delicious burdens. I am filled with them. I will fill them in return. That symbiosis, as we've talked about it so regularly in our study of Leaves of Grass, for everything that I give away, he says, I get something back in return. And there isn't any way, he says, that I'm going to feel guilty or ashamed at all of anything of my past. I'm going to carry it with me as I go forward. Just to finish now, as we begin to kind of think about at level 2A, major themes or messages. Well, think about it. This poem will suggest, you know how we say in 303 that we are the stories we tell and retell. We're also the stories that we decide to accept or reject. But think about this. If you want to say it this way, our journeys, right, are in some ways what define us as who we are. We are the journeys that we take because each of our journeys constructs the story that we are. And with that in mind, you get to choose the journey. That is your journey. I mean, how amazing is that? While others stand around, can we say whimper or whine, you decide, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm going to go out. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be content. And I'm going to go out and take this journey. And of course, Whitman is going to invite us to do the same. When we get to the 15th section of this, and he will use that phrase, camarero, we've seen it before, comrade, my pal, the traveler with me, will obviously say, we are doing this journey alone, but we're never doing it alone. We're all doing it in some ways together. There's something profound about taking the journey of reading Leaves of Grass together as well and saying, you know what, it's so cool that I know others are reading these very lines with me right now, studying these very lines with me, taking the journey of the open road together. At 2B, not what Whitman says, but how he says it again. Interesting. Notice, no exclamation points. Now, we saw a whole bunch of them in Salutamon, but notice, no exclamation points. He will allow for the energy of the words themselves to provide the excitement and not exclamation points. Also notice, he could have written the opening line as a sonnet, and he chose not to. Why? Well, it's 15 lines and 15 sections. Maybe he had that in mind. It's an interesting question. At 3A, guys, I've said this to you before, I'm going to really fight the temptation with every word, with every line of Song of the Open Road, and I say, hey guys, do you remember when we were, you're going to do it though. If you've been reading with me, and some of you will say, you know what, I think I need to pick up Leaves of Grass go back and work through all of the lectures, starting with inscriptions, so that when I pick up Song of the Open Road, I have those echoes forever in my mind, right? Song of Myself, passage 46 obviously comes to mind. We mentioned Homer's Odyssey. Think about that little ditty, of course, that the great other naturalist, the great Walker, the great American poet Frost, he'll talk about a little road that he took as well. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled, and that's made all the difference. A great lover, of course, of this poem, Song of the Open Road. Well, as we begin now our study of Song of the Open Road together, to own, as we sometimes say it in 303, to come to this poetry and make it our own. 3B question: what for you are your old, delicious burdens? What are they? And to what degree have they defined who you are? And are you aware that you're on your journey with them? Maybe in spite of them, but still you carry them with you. You do not want to in any way try to run from, but run towards. That's the goal. And as we come back to passage 2 and beyond, I'm going to challenge you to really enjoy this study, this journey of the open road. Thank you.